Okay, next matchup I want to talk about is Protoss versus Zerg. So as you can see here again, I'm doing the split, which means I send the probes to their individual patches as they're moving. And if I do it right, they'll all turn back like this and come back at the same time, each with a mineral. If you send them all of them straight just to one patch, they will, because of the AI, they'll kind of bug out and they'll take their time before they actually divide themselves up and go to other mineral patches. So in Protoss versus Zerg, the most common build is the fast expand. And the reason for this is it allows Protoss to have the second gas he needs to get his tech out quickly, and it also makes it much easier to keep up with Zerg. So Protoss will fast expand, and for a while this was extremely effective against Zerg because Zerg play was two base oriented. And a Protoss on two bases generally will beat a Zerg on two bases. So for a while Zergs had a big hard time with this, but they pretty soon realized that, alright, if Protoss fast expands, then we can go ahead and double expand. So Zerg goes basically hatchery, pool, hatchery before anything else. Like they get two hatches at two different bases before they've made any Zerglings or anything. But it's safe because Protoss is expanding and needs cannons to prevent any initial Zerglings and such things. That said, this is still a better state. Now, some people would say, okay, well, Zerg just countered what Protoss did by just double expanding, but that's not exactly true because a Protoss on 2 gas, it can be a lot more effective against Zerg in general than a Protoss on 1 gas. And it also makes it way easier for Protoss to get Corsairs to Scout and Templar because Storm is 100% critical versus Zerg. Storm is really nice in PvP and certainly useful in PvT, but it is essential in PvZ. So as you can see here what I'm doing with the probe, he's sending out his probe to expand. So what you can do with the probe is try to delay the expansion. So you just kind of like, you know where the hatchery is, and you just kind of go around the drone and try to block the hatchery. Now this is something a player can do, is he can just put his hatchery somewhere else, and then either cancel it when you leave and re-put it in the correct place, or just leave that hatchery there. But blocking the hatchery is really nice. So I see his pool, and now the way the expand works, the fast expand works for Protoss, is it's some variation of Forge, a Nexus, and 2 cannons. Almost always it's Pylon Forge, because you won't have scouted Zerg in time. Technically against 12 hatches, a 12 hatch, which means a hatch before pool, on most maps, you're okay to do Nexus before Forge if Zerg 12 hatches, but usually you can't scout that in time. So, but I see here that Zerg did 12 hatch, so I'm able to go ahead and get my Nexus before I get any cannons, because his pool's not finished, he can't have any links, he has nothing to threaten me with, and my cannons being built after the Nexus will still finish in time to defend any links, and I can also get the gateway beforehand. But if you want to be 100% safe, you can just get Forge, 2 cannons, and then Nexus. And I'm just scouting around with my probe, just seeing what's up. And one of the important things to think about is, I just lost my train of thought. Is what's called SimCity, which is basically your building placement. And this is one of the key things that makes this work, because this build is safe to anything Zerg can do. Any sort of rush can be defended with this. You might need to get more cannons, you might need to make slight variations, but it's completely safe. There's no way for Zerg to kill this if Protoss scouts and adapts correctly. So what you do is called SimCity, and the initial danger from Zerg is early lings. Either enough lings to kill the cannons, or what's called a ling run-by, which is where Zerg gets any number 6 to 12 usually, oftentimes with Zergling speed, and just runs by your cannons and goes into your main. And then he's got, 8, 10 Zerglings in your main, he kills all your probes, kills you off your entire main because you have no cannons there. So that's one of the risks of the fast expand. And to block that, Protoss does what's called SimCity. So Forge above Gateway is tight, so there's no way for Zerglings to fit in between there, so there's like 2 holes in this wall, and those holes can both be blocked with 1 or 2 probes each. So if you see Zerg going for a run-by, you just pull the probes, block the holes, and if he takes the time to kill those probes with his Zerglings, they'll die to the cannon fire anyway. So instead of having this huge area which Zerglings can run in and there's no way to stop it, you've got this wall that is really protected. The Zerglings can't run through easily. You can block the holes so that they can't get through. And on top of that, the way the cannons are placed, Zerglings have less angle to get around them, so they can't just surround the cannons and kill the cannons. Like only 1 or 2 might be able to attack the cannon at a time, as opposed to all 6. And you kind of have to plan your SimCity out in advance, but the general rule to know is that you don't want the cannons exposed, and that a gateway above a forge is tight. That means nothing can squeeze through it. See, now that hole with the Zealot is blocked. There's only one other hole that Zerglings could get through. And if they try to weave their way through that hole, most of them are going to die to the cannons anyway, and I can always block it. So, what Protoss is going to do next is tech as quickly as possible to both Corsair and to High Templar for Psionic Storm. The purpose of the Corsairs, the main purpose of the Corsair is to scout, and the secondary purpose is to hunt Overlords and kill Overlords, which obviously serves the effect of supply capping the Zerg, so that Zerg can't make more stuff. Now, how many Corsairs you make is up to you. A lot of times 1 or 2 is just fine, because you just want to get some scouting information and see what's up. And that's fine, because the danger is if you make a lot of Corsairs, like let's say you make 6 or 8 Corsairs, and you don't do any damage with those Corsairs, then you're going to be really far behind, because Zerg's just been making Hydras. Corsairs can't shoot down, so you've got these useless 6 Corsairs that are taking up money and supply. Your army is really small. You're going to have a really tough time fighting Zerg's army because you spent all that money on Corsairs and didn't kill anything to make up for it. So Corsair heavy play can be really good, and it's definitely a fun harass style to play, but just keep in mind that if you're not doing damage, you'll probably find yourself at a little bit of a disadvantage. So the general way this works is that Protoss gets a gateway. He gets Nexus, or he gets Forge, 2 cannons, Nexus, then he gets a gateway, and then he gets his gas, and then right after his gateway finishes, he gets the Cybernetics Core, and then he gets the Stargate with the first 150 gas, and then with his next 150 gas, he gets the Citadel of Adun, which opens up the Templar archives and also allows for the research of Zealot leg speed, which is pretty important against Zerg. Because if you don't have it and you're fighting Hydras, he just runs away from you all day and shoots your Zealots from safety, and if you try to attack him, he just runs back, shoots again, runs back, shoots again, can't get any hits off. And as soon as the Citadel finishes, you get your Templar archives. And then the other 2 priorities that you want to research usually are the weapon upgrade, and you want leg speed. And the reason why weapon upgrade is really good, upgrades in general are really strong against Zerg, and they're absolutely phenomenal against Zerglings, particularly the staying ahead of Zerglings, staying ahead of Zerg carapace in weapon upgrade is incredibly beneficial. And what I mean by that is if you